The whole country was jubilant. Freedom, independence, Uhuru was in the very air. Few really understood what it entailed, but who cared? Let the white man go. We'd muddle along with our affairs. After all, they are ours. The revered old man Jomo Kenyatta was at the helm, and to assist him was the firebrand Jaramogi Oginga Odinga. The cabinet consisted of young, quite well-educated Africans whose enthusiasm covered a multitude of sins, especially lack of experience, but they would learn on the job. The sky was the limit for them, mainly because the people they would lead had a few unusual characteristics, though no one realized it then. The two most important of these were an amazing capacity for work and great resilience. The people worked tirelessly, and Kenyatta made the need to work, especially on the land, a clarion call. He ended almost all of his speeches with the plea of "Turudi mashambani," let us return to the land. He exhorted his people to forget and forgive, and the people listened. They seemed to know instinctively that it was better to channel energy into work rather than into hate. Besides, the emergency years of 1952 to 1959 had been 7 years of misery and bloodshed, and nobody wanted to see such things again. People wanted to live in peace, to educate their children, to have a friendly rivalry with their neighbors, to see who could reap more fruits of Uhuru, for Kenyans have a taste for the good things of life. Finally, each Kenyan loved his own skin dearly, and though politicians will try to incite them to violence in later years, this basic love of self will see the people through such difficult times, as would have set the people of other African nations at each other's throats without compunction. The whites left in droves fearing for their lives. The nature of Kenyans had not become evident in those days. For those who stayed, this would become a haven of peace, unequaled anywhere in the continent, not even South Africa, to which some fled. There were many places to be filled and few Africans with enough education to fill them. Promotions were rapid, even for those with only a modicum of ability. Mark Sigo, a man of considerable energy, benefited. He joined a correspondence school and worked hard. In 1967, he became a manager and he moved to a much larger house, which was just as well, for he had quite a large family, made more so by his wife's propensity to having twins. There was Vera and Becky, now aged 12, Aoro aged 10, Anthony Jr., otherwise known as Tony, aged 8, a set of twin boys, naturally named Opio and Odongo, aged 5, and the baby Mary, who was barely 1. 7 in all. He himself was 43 and his wife 37. She was so busy with the children that she had no time to study further, but she still taught at school. All in all, the Sigu family was a happy one. There was money, but not too much, and plenty of love, simple and unpretentious. Mark gathered his family protectively under his wing, and when he realized that no love was lost between his wife and his mother, he quietly made a resolution to resettle his family elsewhere. He did things for Elizabeth that would never have even crossed the mind of a full-blooded African man with a low opinion of women bred into him. She was constantly overworked in spite of the house help they had. 7 children at home and 40 children in a classroom are a lot of work. So Mark took to helping her around the house, especially in taking the children off her hands. His friends derided this for a while, but when he proved adamant, they gave him up as a lost cause. The children grew so fast and in fact were a measure with which to gauge the passing of time. Vera was a brilliant student and carried off trophy after trophy in her school. She had a tremendous amount of energy and was into every activity, from debate to sports. She was not beautiful, at least not in the exquisite way her sister was, but she had a strong and arresting face, a lithe and graceful body. If it were not for the fact that she was open and friendly and never put anyone down, it would have been quite easy to dislike her. But Vera was ever ready to help and assist, and so was quite popular in spite of her brilliance and force of personality. When she was 14 and in the top of class of her primary school, they made her the school captain, a position which had only been held by boys before. Her father was quite beside himself. Becky was altogether different. There was no denying the fact that she was a beauty and would always be one. She had large, limpid eyes, a perfect face and a soft, fine skin. It was not that Becky was lazy or even stupid. She just did not know the meaning of exerting herself. She got whatever she wanted without creating any waves or getting into any unpleasant situation, for she was very fastidious and utterly selfish. Her schoolwork was satisfactory, for poor work was very likely to bring down the ceiling around one's head at home. But Becky had a problem. She disliked her sister with a violence which was alien to a child, and worse, she hid it well behind that beautiful face. Maybe if she had brought it out, it might have helped, but she kept it just beneath her consciousness. Vera loved her, accompanied her everywhere, and showed her off to all, for she had no capacity for meanness or envy, so no one at home ever suspected. Of necessity, they shared a room, and the way in which Becky kept her things strictly to herself and her side of the room spotlessly clean might have alerted their mother, were it not for Vera's all-concealing love. In any case, all parents make mistakes. Mark and Elizabeth were no exemption. When they sat for their final primary school examination, Vera, as was expected, had an almost perfect score, and with it she won a place at a top national school for girls. Becky only did well enough to get a place in the district school. Their parents were elated until Vera brought them down by declaring that she was not going to school at all. Her parents exchanged a perplexed look. What was this? Was the child ill or something? "Are you feeling well?" asked her mother solicitously. I am all right, but I'm not going." Tears stood out in her eyes, and her mother knew her well enough to know that a torrent was on its way. So she said, "It's all right. We can talk about it later." Mark shifted on his feet uneasily. He was at a loss, but was wise enough to let Elizabeth lead. "No, mother." Vera bit her lip in determination, and teardrops hung dangerously on the edge of her lower lid. "I want to talk about it now." This was supposed to be a happy occasion. To have two daughters admitted to a high school was not a small thing. What could be wrong? "Okay, all right. Why don't you want to go?" "I want to go to Becky's school," she blurted out. "Huh?" Mark couldn't believe his ears, but then now at least it made some sense. They tried argument, coercion, enticement, to no avail. Becky herself looked on all this and then smiled quietly to herself and left the room. Vera was nothing if not determined. She would go to school only if she went with her sister, since her sister could not come with her. Her father, for the first time in his life, felt like beating her into submission, but he knew it would only make her more determined. Later that night, as they lay in bed discussing the matter, his wife said the only sensible thing that had been said that day. "You know, Vera is the sort of person to make a success of her life wherever she happens to be. It is not only children in national schools who pass examinations. Besides, she can then look after her sister. I never feel quite safe about that child." And so the young ladies packed their bags and became boarders at Riverside High School, and a new phase of their life started.